What is going on, everybody? Sports Expert here, and we're doing an interesting video today. We are doing our NFL trade deadline predictions part 1. This will be part 1 out of, I believe, 4 or 5 videos, so I hope you guys are tuned in. There will be a few trade proposals in here that I like and that could be interesting. So make sure to please hit the subscribe button if you're new. Turn on post notifications. Like the video. Comment what you think. Would really appreciate it. And liking the video helps our video in the algorithm. So would really appreciate that, guys. So let's get started with our trade deadline predictions video. So yeah, let's go. Our first trade we have is involving the Indianapolis Colts and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I have the Indianapolis Colts acquiring tight end Zach Ertz, and I have the Eagles acquiring a 2022 fifth-round pick. I don't think Zach Ertz's value is as high as it used to be, and with injury problems and aging, I don't think his value is really that high right now, and a team that could use him right now is the Indianapolis Colts. They may be 1-4, but I think they still have quite a bit of a chance to make a run because of how bad the AFC South really is. And if they want to, I think Zach Ertz would be a guy to go after because of his chemistry with Carson Wentz and his familiarity with Frank Reich. So I think the Eagles would be lucky to land a fifth rounder or anything out of this. So I think this would be a fair trade for both sides, something we could see happen over the next, 2 to 3 weeks. The trade deadline's November 2nd. Today is October 13th. So yeah, I'm definitely interested to see if these type of trades happen. But Zach Ertz to the Colts would just make a lot of sense for both teams, as the Eagles would get a pick out of it. And the Colts would probably be willing to give up a pick to get Ertz just because of Carson Wentz and Frank Reich, even though Chris Bauer doesn't do many trades like where he gives up a ton of draft capital. He did do the DeForest Buckner trade, but other than that, he hasn't been too aggressive. But this could be an interesting deal. The second trade we have here is involving the Kansas City Chiefs and the Minnesota Vikings. I have the Kansas City Chiefs here acquiring cornerback Cameron Dantzler from the Minnesota Vikings for a 2023 fifth-round pick and a 2022 sixth-round pick. I think the Kansas City Chiefs would have to give up a couple picks to get this guy just because he was a third-round pick in 2020. And the thing is, the Vikings aren't using him much. I know they signed Rashad Breeland, and he hasn't been playing well, but it seems like they're committed to him and Patrick Peterson. So it doesn't seem like the Chiefs are too committed with Dantzler right now, even though he has played very well for them. And a team that could definitely benefit with Dantzler sitting is the Kansas City Chiefs. And that is because they need secondary help as bad as any other team in the league. They're banged up back there. They have some problems back there. Their defense is one of the worst in football. And if they can get a guy like Dantzler, that'll be an upgrade immediately from a few guys. But giving up the picks, that will be key as well. Do they want to give up a sixth and a fifth to get Dantzler? I don't know, but I think it would be a fair deal just because he was a third-round pick with a high ceiling, and he's definitely a guy I would go after. He definitely has Pro Bowl potential, and I thought he was a solid prospect coming out of Mississippi State. Wasn't the highest on him, but at the same time, I think the Vikings know that they can get some picks out of this trade, and the Chiefs know what type of value Dantzler has. So maybe something happens with Dantzler by November 2nd, but I'm not 100% sure if that happens. Our third trade we have here is an interesting one. I have the Cleveland Browns acquiring wide receiver Brandon Cooks from the Houston Texans, and I have the Houston Texans acquiring a 2022 third-round pick. The Cleveland Browns seem to need wide receiver help, as the guys they have right now ain't getting the job done. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been underwhelming. Rashard Higgins hasn't been on the field much. Not sure what that's for. Odell Beckham Jr. has been underwhelming as well. Jarvis Landry's been injured, so if the Browns want to compete, I think it'd be smart to get a weapon like Brandon Cooks. So I think Cooks is definitely would be a nice fit with Cleveland, and Cleveland needs an outside receiver along with Jarvis Landry, who's in the slot. Maybe you can get him, Rashard Higgins, DPJ, Jarvis Landry, and the tight ends, obviously, Njoku, Hooper. That would be a nice core for Baker Mayfield to build on with this offensive line, which is arguably the best in football. It's top 5 for sure. But, and he still has his running backs, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. This could be huge for the Browns' window. And he has another year in his deal after this. And the Texans get a 2022 third. There's some Texans fans saying they can get a first or second. I don't see that because Cooks only has one more year left on his deal. And He's making about 12 to 13 million on that year, so I don't think it's going to be a huge draft pick, but it'll be something like a third. I think that's definitely interesting to see. But the Cleveland Browns, this would be a huge trade for them, and the Houston Texans would get a pick here. And the Texans, at this point with their rebuild, they're starting a rebuild. They need as many picks as they can get. So might as well just get a third here for Brandon Cooks as the Browns. I don't even think they need to be that desperate to give up a third. My fourth and final trade in this video is an interesting one. It's a player-for-player trade. I have the Chicago Bears making a trade with the Cleveland Browns. I have the Chicago Bears acquiring wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., and the Cleveland Browns acquiring defensive tackle Akeem Hicks. The thing about this trade, Odell Beckham Jr.'s chemistry with Baker Mayfield just isn't there. Baker Mayfield's been hearing all the criticism that he keeps forcing the ball to Odell. Now he's not even throwing it to him. And now there seems to be some inside turmoil between the Browns and Odell Beckham Jr., even though it doesn't show. But at the same time, I would not just stay content with Odell. I would send him away if I'm the Browns and get Brandon Cooks. And then this trade, they'll acquire Akeem Hicks, who it doesn't seem like the Bears have any long-term plans at this point of his career. So might as well ship him to Cleveland if you want a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. on your team that's making $15 million. Akeem Hicks might get a raise in pay, but the Browns could afford that for a year or so. So, the Bears, they have Allen Robinson. We'll see if they trade him. I don't think they'll trade Allen Robinson, but I think they could go out and get a guy like Odell. They tried to get Kenny Galladay in the offseason and pair him with Allen Robinson. So this could be an interesting trade. Maybe they can pair up OBJ and Allen Robinson for Justin Fields, who's looked solid the last 2 games. And if they can get some offensive linemen on that team, Tevin Jenkins could get healthy and make an impact. The Bears could have a solid offense. And they have a lot of depth on that defense, and the defense already looks very solid for Chicago, so they can afford to give up a guy like Akeem Hicks, and they don't have to give up any draft picks in this scenario. They can only give up the player, and this would be a fair deal for both teams. As the Browns, they shed some salary. They have Akeem Hicks for the rest of the year. Good chance he's a rental, but at the same time, he would really help with their playoff window. And if they're a team that's going to try to win now, picks may not be the biggest need ever for the Cleveland Browns. So this could be a trade I see. But I appreciate everyone being here. Please hit the subscribe button if you're new. Turn on post notifications. Like the video. Comment what you think. I appreciate everyone being here. What are your guys' thoughts on these trades? Sports expert here. I'm out, guys. Peace.